Joining us now to discuss, geopolitical analyst and author of Biohacked: China's Race to Control Life, Brandon J. Weichert. Thank you so much for being with us today. It's great to have you, Brandon.
Thanks for having me on again. It's great to be back.
Absolutely. So tell us what's going on here. Can you go into some of the implications about this facility in Cuba, and what does this mean for Americans? Are there indications this spy facility is being used to gather intelligence on U.S. military activities and or sensitive information?
Well, it's important to note that this is actually likely not the first facility that China has acquired. I remember back in the early 2000s, in fact, Bill Gertz of the Washington Times was reporting that the Chinese had taken over the old Soviet listening post in Cuba that was the largest Soviet listening post outside of what was the Soviet Union at one time. So, in fact, other reports indicate that this recent acquisition or possible acquisition is one of 3 Chinese listening posts, with more on the way. And what this indicates to us is that China is following through on their program to not just dominate their part of the world, the Indo-Pacific, but more dangerously to move beyond the Indo-Pacific, link up their sphere of influence there with what should be our sphere of influence in the Western Hemisphere. And so I would be very concerned that these listening posts are but the first of many steps toward China getting a strategic foothold in what should be an exclusive American domain.
Yeah, it absolutely is very concerning. What should the U.S. government be doing to address this security concern right now?
Well, when it comes to Cuba, 90 miles away, I live in Florida, so it's 90 miles away from where I live in Florida. I've always believed we need to have a very strong regional policy here. So something that we might need to look at is military action to prevent this deal from going forward. We cannot allow Chinese strategic footholds to start popping up, not just in Latin America generally, but specifically in Cuba, a place that is 90 miles away from one of our most important parts of the country, which is the American Southeast. So we need to look at a range of options, as little as simply preventing them from doing this by moving in and using intelligence assets to prevent it, or something more radical, more permanent, like some kind of military action. But the one thing we should not be okay with is letting these facilities be built without any kind of pushback from the United States.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think we could even count on military action being taken here when the Biden regime is just allowing our borders to stay wide open? I mean, as mentioned earlier, Chinese migrants are flooding in now. Migrants from Mexico and everywhere else are flooding in. Can we expect them to actually do anything here to actually secure what's happening?
Absolutely not. Joe Biden and his family are completely compromised by Chinese funny money. They are not going to do anything, not just because of that, but because for 50 years of his government career, Joe Biden has been an engager with China. In fact, he's doing whatever he can to make sure that Antony Blinken, his Secretary of State and longtime bagman, can go to Beijing next week and basically behave as a vassal. Under the Biden administration, the United States is quickly becoming a vassal or supplicant of China's new empire. And so, no, I would expect no kind of pushback, maybe some harsh words, the most that we're going to get out of Biden. But there will be no kind of pushback on this issue or any issue related to China.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. Well, in other news, the U.S. just decided to rejoin UNESCO and pay back dues to counter Chinese influence. What do you make of this move here, Brandon? What does this mean?
Well, it's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't situations, because on the one hand, you want to be able to say the United States is not beholden to any international organization, especially one that is as badly compromised by China as the UNESCO and these other organizations have become. But at the same time, given how many countries are involved in this organization, if the United States decides to check out of this organization or other similar organizations, but China maintains its hold there, there's a chance that we're basically going to become the odd man out.
For all our viewers asking where One America News is heading in the future, we would like to introduce you to OAN Live. OAN Live is the best way to stay up to date on all of the hard-hitting, straight-shooting, national and international headlines. And the best part is, OAN Live is only $4.99 per month. All the credible, honest, unbiased reporting One America News offers at a fraction of the cost of cable. Just go to OANN.com to easily sign up for OAN Live and stay informed.